Hello and welcome to Yes, You Are Brave. This is a podcast where we're going to set off on a journey together to find and build our brave, where we explore all the ways that you have been brave and all the ways that you can be brave again. Because even though we may have forgotten or we may have fallen out of practice, we're all brave. And I'm on a mission to prove it and help you believe that yes, you are brave. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Yes, You Are Brave. I'm Pawnee, I'm your host. Welcome to the 100th episode of Yes, You Are Brave. Poof, my mind is kind of blown. It's kind of crazy that we are here. It has been quite a journey. It's been really fun. Thank you for coming on it with me. I am super duper excited to continue. And we're going to talk brave. So let's jump in. Let's talk brave. Now, this episode is going to be a tiny bit different. I wanted to do something big and special for the 100th episode, and I floated a lot of things, but got the idea. So recently most of you know that I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we had our general conference. And it's where our leaders speak to us and stuff. And the prophet of our church is just turned 99 this year. And he was not actually at conference because he had a fall. And but he had recorded a message for us. And in it he said, people are like, how have you lived to almost 100? And he said, that's not the right question. The better question to ask is, what have I learned in nearly 100 years of living? And so I kind of wanted to take that particular direction with this. I want to talk about what I've learned in the first 100 episodes of this podcast. And there are tons and tons of things that I have learned. I have narrowed it down for time's sake because I don't have the longest attention span. I don't expect anybody else to. So I don't want this to be too long, but I wanted to do it justice as well. So I've narrowed it down to 10 things that I have learned from these 100 episodes of the podcast. So let's jump right in. Number one thing that I have learned from the Yes, You Are Brave podcast this last 2 years. It's taken us 2 years to get to 100 episodes. The first thing, though, that I've learned is that done is better than perfect. And this is something that I have come to really learn and to really love in the last couple of years, because I've always been a bit of a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? And I've learned that perfectionism is one of my methods of procrastination. And that sounds crazy, but a lot of times something that I've also learned is that perfectionism and wanting things to be perfect is a way that we procrastinate. And that's one of the reasons we procrastinate. And because we don't think we can do it perfectly well, or we don't feel like we can give 110% or all those things, so we don't do it. We put it off because we can't get it perfect. And I have come to learn that done is better than perfect, because if we wait for it to be perfect, it doesn't really matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it is something that we're making or something we're trying to do. If we're waiting till we can do it perfectly, we're never going to get there. We are never going to get there if we wait for it to be perfect. It's just not going to happen. So done is better than perfect. It really, truly is. And I also I recently read, this year I read the book Finish by Jon Acuff. And it's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. But one of the things that he says, he talks about finishing things, and he says it's all about beating procrastination. He said, but the opposite, I love this thing. He says the opposite of perfect isn't failure, it's finished. And that hit me like a massive ton of bricks, because sometimes it's if I can't be perfect, then I'm going to fail. And that's not necessarily the truth. We're not failing if it's not perfect. We're failing if we're just not done. That's how you could really look at it. So I love that the opposite of perfect isn't failure. It's just finished. So the first thing that I've learned from this podcast is that done is better than perfect. And there's been a lot of things. A lot of this podcast hasn't been perfect. Most of it hasn't been perfect, in fact. And I realized that the only reason I've been able to get this far is because I have had to accept the mindset of done is better than perfect. So that's the first thing that I have learned from this podcast. Super grateful for that. Done is better than perfect. Number 2 thing that I wanted to talk about that I have learned and has really, really come to be really big and important in this particular stage of my life again is there is that quote that says, sometimes courage is that little voice that says, I'll try again tomorrow. And I can't tell you how many times in my life I have felt that. You get to the end of a day and you're tired and you feel worn down and beat up and like you have not succeeded at all that day. And then it's just that little like, well, I guess I'll try again tomorrow. And I think that is one of the best gifts that we have is the ability to try again tomorrow. And also, I want to point out that we don't lose our brave, we don't lose our courage just because we get tired. We have these goals and we have these things that we're working towards, and it doesn't matter what we're working towards or what goal we're trying to reach. At some point, we are going to get tired. We are going to get so tired that we don't feel like we can keep going. We don't feel like we can ever reach this goal. We feel like just giving up and throwing in the towel. That is going to happen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we're trying to do. That's going to happen, right? And so also kind of along those lines, I've realized that like sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and for the day is just put it to bed. Is put the day to bed, put yourself to bed, go to bed and rest up, because you can't fight and defeat dragons when you are so weary that you cannot lift a sword. And that is something that has also just really been something that I've really learned, has been reiterated and come up again and again, especially in this podcast, is that sometimes courage is really just trying again tomorrow. It's going to bed tonight so that tomorrow maybe we can get things a little bit better. Maybe we can really be there, really show up. So, and again, just because you're tired doesn't mean you've lost all the stuff you've worked for. You're just tired and you need a rest. That is number 2. Number 3 thing that I have learned from 2 years of podcasting, you're never going to feel ready. You are never going to feel completely ready. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what you're trying. It doesn't matter what it is. You're never going to feel completely ready. If you wait until you feel completely ready, then you are probably never going to do it. You can't wait until you feel ready to move. You have to start moving, and then you will become ready for that task as you move, as you go forward, and as you don't let fear make all the decisions. So also along those lines is something that I love, is that action brings clarity. When we start moving, when we start working towards something, we get clarity on what we're doing. We get clarity on how we feel about it. And so we can't wait until we're ready. You can't wait until you're completely ready. You just have to start moving and start trying. Otherwise, you're just going to stay stuck because you're never going to feel completely ready. Whether it's applying for that new job or it's moving across the country or starting a family, you're never going to feel completely ready. You just have to start anyway. And you need to believe that you can do the hard thing. Even though you don't feel ready, you gotta believe that you can do the hard thing. And that kind of leads me into my next point of things that I have learned from the podcast. And that is that brave is a skill. Okay. Being brave is a skill, which means that it can be learned, it can be developed. But because it is a skill, it's also like a muscle that if you're not going to use it, it's not going to stick around, right? Or it's like that math. It's like math. If you're not using your math all the time, it goes away real fast. And so I love that just like any other skill, you can learn it, you can develop it, but you have to do things in order to develop that skill. It's not just something that you are. It's not just something that you are. And yes, some people are naturally more brave. Some people are naturally just really courageous people and they don't have a problem doing the hard things, or at least the hard things that maybe you do. But it's like anything else. You have to develop that skill. Talent alone and natural ability, natural gifts will only get you so far. Anybody that has played any kind of sport knows this, right? There's those people that, yes, they are just naturally super talented. They've got the coordination, they've got all the things, but it's usually the one that is a little less naturally talented that works way harder that ends up being the better player. And so, but that's the awesome thing about it is it can be developed. And when you work hard enough, that is a skill and you can develop it. It's amazing. But you also have to do the things that require courage for you to develop courage, for you to build that brave. You don't learn how to really learn how to bake unless you are actually in the kitchen baking. You don't learn how to play basketball unless you are actually on a court playing basketball. And so you have to actually do those things. But the good news is that if you want to be a brave person and you're willing to work for it, you can develop that skill. It's not beyond your reach, and I love that. But you just start small and then you're going to work your way up, right? Because a lot of times when we think of brave, we think of that big, huge thing, right? That moving across the country or the really big, huge things, but the big, huge things don't come out of nowhere. They come from all of these little things that we did to practice, right? So brave is a skill, and because it's a skill, you can develop it. You don't just have to be born with it. All right, number 5, things I've learned from the podcast. There's always going to be a million reasons not to do the brave or the hard thing that you desperately want to do. There is always going to be an out. And I had an episode about this, about not taking the out. And it's one of my favorite things that I've learned is that there's always going to be a reason not to do it. Always. Because if you're looking for an excuse, you're always going to find one. Always. But what's the thing about like excuses? They're like something else we all have one and they all stink. So if you're looking for an excuse, you're always going to find one. There's always a reason not to. But you have to decide that you're not going to take the out. And that has to be a conscious decision. That has to be, you can't just like willy-nilly be like, oh, well, you eventually have to get off the fence and decide, am I going to do this or am I not? And because there's always going to be an out, there's always going to be an exit. You can just hop off the road that's on your way to your goals and go find something that's easier to do. But you have to realize, you have to decide what you want, and you have to find your why. And I know that that's a weird thing. And at first, when I first heard that, I was like, that is kind of I didn't quite get it. But you have to find your why, and you have to hold on to your why, and you have to allow that to motivate you to keep going. And maybe your why changes, and that's totally fine. But you have to find your why. You have to hold on to it. You have to let yourself be motivated. And along those same lines, when you get tired, rest. Don't quit. Okay? Rest. Take the rest. Take the pause. Take the breather. But don't quit. Because there's always going to be reasons to quit. There's always going to be a reason to not do it. But don't take the out. Don't take the out. Next thing that I've learned, number 6, is that each version of you has to develop their own version of brave. And what do I mean by this? I mean, you are constantly changing. And I know this is something that a lot of people don't think about and they don't realize, okay? But you are constantly changing. At least I hope you are constantly changing, because if you are constantly changing, that means you're growing, you're learning, you're always becoming a slightly different version of yourself. Okay, and so every time you get to a new version of yourself, especially the big ones, it's going to feel like that security blanket goes away. They're going to disappear, and then it's going to be hard to do things again. Because you'll have something mastered, and then all of a sudden it's like you have to do it without something that you've always had, and then you're like, I can't do this. It's scary. It's hard again. For example, When I started this podcast, and for the first 97 episodes, I had a little brown dog at my feet all the time. And in a lot of my early episodes, there's a soft snoring in the background that is my dog. And she was one of the reasons that I did a lot of things. She was just my best friend and my support. And I have literally recorded 2 podcast episodes since she died. And it was like, all of a sudden, it was like, wait a minute, I can't do this. All of a sudden, it was this huge insecurity to try to come up with ideas for the podcast and to record them. I've literally been trying to record this episode for a week because she was kind of one of my security blankets, I guess you could say. And it feels so hard to do it without her, because for the first 2 years and nearly 100 episodes, she was right there with me. Now, did she do anything but sit on my feet or snore in my lap? Not particularly, but she helped me feel brave. And now this version of me that doesn't have her right here next to me has to find a way to continue to be brave and to continue to do those things. So you're going to be constantly changing. And when you get into a new stage of life, or somebody that you love dies or moves away or whatever it is, brave is going to have to look a little different for you, for each version of you. And you're going to have to be patient with yourself and realize that, yeah, you can still be brave. And yeah, it's scary, but it's okay. And you just have to keep working at it. So each version of you is going to have to develop their own kind of brave, their own version of brave, because brave is going to look different also at different points in your life, depending on what you're trying to do. All right, number 7. Number 7, this is something that I love, and I've really been harping on lately, especially with the students that I'm working with at the moment, is that you are what you say you are. Okay? Words have power. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Your words have power. Okay? I think somewhere along the line we have lost this appreciation for language and for words. We just throw them around willy-nilly, and we don't accept and we don't appreciate the power that they have. So because your words have power, I want you to think about how you are talking to yourself, because you talk to yourself more than anybody else. And so what you're saying to yourself needs to be what you need to hear. And that's something that I have really learned the last couple of years, is that my words do have power. And when I shift my language, even if it's just in my mind, what I'm saying to myself, my self-talk, it makes a huge, huge difference. So also, like, your brain, one thing that I've learned and that I've loved is that your brain is going to believe whatever story you tell it. And so if you tell yourself that you're a brave person, that you're learning to do things, that you're working towards stuff, your brain is going to start finding evidence of that. Your brain is going to support you no matter what story you tell it. And that goes positively or negatively. If you tell your brain that you're a chicken, that you're not brave, that you don't know how to do this, that, it's going to find evidence to support that. So remember that your words have power. And like I said, I have had experiences with this, shifting my language, even sometimes just little things of taking certain words out. Instead of saying trying, I've switched it to I'm working on or I'm learning. And it has made a huge difference. There's not as negative of a connotation with working towards or learning as there is with trying. I didn't realize there was one. But what are the words that you can shift to make it more positive? And what do you want to be? Because you are what you say you are. I say I'm a podcaster, so I'm a podcaster. I say I'm an author, so I'm an author. They're what you say you are. You are. Kind of next, that is number 7. Number 8. And I wanted there to be like a crazy, like awesome way that I did this, but I'm not sure that the order is the best. But number 8 is that the reason is you. Now, this is kind of twofold. I want to tell you two different things with this particular thing that I've learned. The reason is you. First of all, the whole reason that I do this podcast is you. The reason that I started this podcast was you. The reason that I started and wanted to be somebody's voice to tell them that they could, because I realized that I was blessed and I had somebody that told me that I was brave and that I could do things and that I knew how to do things. And I wanted to be able to help you do that as well. Because I know that sometimes it's hard to believe that you're brave. It's hard to see the good things that you can do. It's hard to see what you're capable of from inside of you in your head. You're the reason that I do this. You really are. And I'm just super grateful for you coming along on this journey to maybe find your own brave, to build your own brave, to realize that you are. So you're the reason. The reason is you. That's the first part of this. The second part I wanted to share with you an experience I had not too long ago. I was driving in my car and I had the radio on and the song came on. The Reason is the song. It's by Hoobastank, I do believe. Go and listen to that song. And at first, I almost changed the station because, that song's been around for a long time. And I was thinking it was kind of a breakup song, right? I had always thought of it as a breakup song or something like that. But then I've been doing this thing lately where I try to flip songs to fit my circumstances and where I'm at in life and not just where they're intended to come from. And so I had this thought and this kind of vision, I kind of picture in my mind while I was listening to this song, that it was saying these things to myself in the mirror. And it was like, wait a minute, and if you haven't listened to that song recently or ever thought of it from that perspective, go listen to that song and think of it that way. Because, where the chorus is, I found a reason for me to change who I used to be, a reason to start over new, and the reason is you. And it really hit me. I almost started crying. I was driving down the road, almost started crying because it was totally different from that particular perspective. And, the song starts off with I'm not a perfect person. There's many things I wish I didn't do, and apologizing for hurting this person. And it just, if I think about it, the reason has to be you as well. You get to be your own reason. You can be your own reason. You can work towards being your own reason. And I know that that's hard. And for me, it has also been hard. So yes, the reason I do this podcast is for you, but it's also so that you can be your own reason. You can be your own reason. You can be the reason that you get up in the morning. You can be the reason that you do the hard things because you realize that you're worth the work and you're worth the effort. The reason is you. The reason is you. Twofold. Number 9. Things that I've learned in this podcast, doing this podcast in the last couple of years, is it's not and, or it's not or, it's and. Okay? And instead of or. So there's something that the last couple of years has taught me is that you can always be more than one thing at a time. So you can be scared to death and do it anyway. You can be afraid, you can feel that fear, and you can still have the faith that it's going to work out and the faith that you can move forward and actually take those steps forward and take those steps forward. That is a big one. I know that there's a lot of people that there's a big thing, especially in religious circles, that they say oh, faith and fear can't live together. And I've always really struggled with that because I feel no matter how much faith I think I have, I'm also always still afraid. But I think what it really comes down to is you can't drive with faith and fear, meaning you can't have faith and fear both be driving. One of them is going to be in control. And so I love that you can be afraid and still have enough faith to move forward. You can feel hurt and you can still reach for forgiveness. You can be happy and you can be sad at the same time. You can be motivated and lazy. You can be independent and still need people. And you can be tired and still invigorated. Okay, it's very seldom or, right? I saw a thing on Facebook just today and it was like, what was like watermelon or pineapple? And the comment on it was, you put or where God put and. And I thought that was really awesome. So it's never just or, it's more often it's and. Because that's the other thing, you can feel more than one thing at a time and you can be more than one thing at a time. You don't have to be just one thing. You don't have to choose to just be one little thing in one little box. You don't. You can be so many things, all the things that you want to be. You can be a baker and an accountant. You can be a teacher and an author. You can be strong and soft. You can be more than one thing at a time. Please, please believe that. That is one of the things that I feel like has made a huge, huge difference in my life. Okay, last thing that I want to talk about, number 10 of the things that I have learned in the first 100 episodes of this podcast is you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck. And when you get stuck, you need to reach out for help. And I have to say, I am not a good person, not good at reaching out for help. I'm not good at asking for help. But it doesn't matter how much we fight this. We need other people. We can't do everything on our own. We're not meant to just be by ourselves all the time. We're never meant to not need help. And so you don't have to do it. There's that and again. And you don't have to do it all by yourself. You don't need to do it all alone. Please, please don't insist on doing everything on your own. You don't have to. Perfect example. This is the 100th episode, and somebody mentioned it being the 100th episode. Like, I was coming up on that, like, oh, people do big things, and then all of a sudden I felt this pressure about like, oh, I got to do something big, I got to do something cool for the 100th episode, but I could not think of anything. I was so stuck. It was really hard to do the podcast, just in general, and I was just stuck. And I was talking to a good friend one day, and I said, hey, I'm coming up on this 100th episode. And I asked for help. I said, do you have any ideas about like what I might do for this 100th episode or just episodes in general? And they're like, yeah, well, not right at the moment, but let me think about it. A couple days later, they got back to me and gave me the idea for this episode. And it was one of those things that was like, oh my goodness, that is amazing. That is the best idea ever. So you know who you are. Thank you so very, very much for being such an amazing friend and for the idea for this particular podcast. I appreciate it. So you're going to get stuck, and it's okay to get stuck. And it's also okay when you get stuck to reach out for help and reach out for support, because again, we're not meant to do everything by ourselves. And it is brave to reach out and ask for help when you need it, or reach out and ask for support when you need it. Sometimes it's ideas that you need. Sometimes you just really need a hug. Okay? It's okay to ask for those things that you need. So those are the things that I have learned in the first 100 episodes of the Yes, You Are Brave podcast. I am so excited and so grateful that I get to do this podcast and that I get to be there for you, because again, you are the reason you are brave. Even if you don't feel like it, even if you've never seen yourself as brave, even if it's just you want to be brave, but you're not sure how. Remember, brave is a skill, and you can develop that skill. You can be brave as you want to be. And I am super happy and super excited for you to get going on this journey. And I'm super excited, hopefully, to go along with you. If there is some sort of brave topic that you would like me to address, please let me know. Send me a message on social media and we will get it. We'll talk about it. So thank you so much for getting me to this point. Thank you so much for being patient with all of my ramblings and blabbering. And I'm super excited where this next 100 episodes of Brave is going to take us, because I have a feeling it is going to be an amazing ride. So thank you very much. We will see you in the next 100 episodes. Not all at once, because that's crazy. I don't do that many at a time. But thank you very much. Remember that I love you, that you're amazing, that you are wonderful, that you are totally worth the work and the effort, and you can be anything that you want to be. You can develop whatever skill that you want to be, that you want to develop. You've got this. I'm rooting for you. Let's go be brave. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please leave a review down below and share this with anyone that you feel like could use a little more brave in their life. And if you'd like to follow more of my journey to be brave, you can follow me on social media and link down below. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to be brave.